Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Thursday, July the 3rd, 2025, and today's topic will be called Imaginative Sketching. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day and I use a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer and there's several things I want to go over today. Plus, I want to work on this. I've been waiting. So yeah, let's get started. I'll post a link to yesterday's video where if you want to see how I came up with this, and I'll talk about it and work on it some more. I spent about an hour from the end of yesterday's video to where I'm at now, but it was like 2 30-minute kind of like sessions. It's kind of important, especially with like today's topic, like the imagination. Like when you're using imagination, it's you either see it or you don't see it, or another way of saying that would be like you can either imagine it or not, and so you don't force it. Like you can't really force imagination. And I'll put up a before picture just so you can kind of see, and I don't totally remember what it looked like, but yeah, you can check out yesterday's video if you want to see more details. But basically it was kind of from imagination. So yesterday's video was called Contemplative because I wasn't sure what to draw, and so I was contemplating it. And so this is a mixture of reference, so like this pose and stuff, but it looks pretty different from like the reference. Then I saw a picture of some kind of like castle kind of thing, and then I made up all of this, and now I'm like creating like an illustration out of it. And that's just sort of how I tend to like do stuff if I'm doing my own kind of thing. Like I just sort of make up stuff. Plus it sort of leans towards like world building. So yeah, with that said, I notice right here, so this happened, so I put a border around it. So if you're thinking about how to make something look a little bit more finished, so one, when you use a pen, it tends to look more finished than, let's say, like if this were a pencil sketch or like even a drawing. It's just kind of how it is. Like a pen will just tend to look more finished. And if you put a border, it'll tend to look more like a, you can either make it into a comic, like a sequence, or a standalone like illustration. Also, if it were like, if there were color or if it were painted, it'll look a little bit more finished, if you will, than if it was just black and white. Although sometimes the black and white like this can look like pretty finished also, like a lot of detail. I noticed like now that I stepped away from it and I'm looking at it, and sometimes, yeah, like I make myself step away. I use a timer, and once I reach like, let's say an hour, then I just kind of leave it alone, because then like some overwork will start to creep in. But yeah, I noticed like I want to adjust this, and I feel like that would be a good thing to kind of go over. There's a lot to like the idea of sketching from imagination. So one approach from drawing from imagination is like right now, for example, like I'm not looking at anything, although I am looking at the drawing. It is imagination, but I'm also going off of the drawing itself. So this could be someone else's drawing, for example. So anyway, like right here, I want to adjust it. Like I want this to sort of, I'll just turn it into like the background. So that's like imagination. and that's just based off of like the drawing. So just to get warmed up, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start to push it back into the background. Now you'll notice that like I have, like that's basically what this was. And so imagination can also be like that. Like it's just you're sort of fixing things, or like it's kind of spontaneous. Maybe certain things look like they could be turned into like a part of the picture and stuff like that. So that's imagination too. So it's not just coming up with something like out of nowhere, is what I'm saying. So that's one thing to do, is just, and when I say like, I say it a lot, sort of do it gradually. So this is starting to run out, and I said that it's a felt tip pen, Paper Mate, and this is just printer paper, like medium quality. And I said several days ago that this was starting to run out, but like sometimes it'll start to like have ink again. So I use them until they're until I can't use them anymore. And usually if it starts to run out like too much, I'll start to use it as like in other areas. So I am approaching this very detailed because I like using color. It's just that I like to explore like the medium. So that's like a style thing. So if all I ever use is this pen, it's going to have like a certain style. So I've been using it for several months now, for the past year, I think. So like that's one thing, is imagination can just come from like looking at like the picture and making adjustments. So you are using your imagination. The other thing, kind of like with this, like I made some adjustments. So for example, I'll just put more shading, and the technique is cross-hatching. Now I can't really teach anyone how to use imagination. I can just sort of demonstrate it, but I can teach people how to do cross-hatching. So I'm just going in like this one direction with using like some kind of pen. And in this picture, I'm actually using the same pen. However, with the, like on the face, I have like a finer point. And so there's like a Sharpie pen, but just anything that has like a finer point than this one for like that. But I use it kind of, again, build up gradually. I use it sort of sparingly, because notice that wherever you do that, like have more variety, it'll be the focal point. And so you could do it like to the rest of it, it'll just start to like flatten it out is what happens. Yeah, I wanted to, like, that's one thing I knew I wanted to do, was sort of fix this. Now, some of this could be blended. I mean, so that's why I mean, like, or I say like to kind of build it up gradually, because you can make the edge a little bit more softer. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is I'll just kind of keep working on this. So when you're drawing from imagination, so if I say something like, yeah, drawn from imagination, so let's say like this is foliage. So there's different things. So there's like the style of it. So I'm using this pen, for example. So let's say that I kind of showed it like right here, where let's say that this is some kind of like foliage. So if I go like this, and again, it's sort of like running out, but I'm just going to use that as part of like the look of it. So let's say I go like this. So I tend to approach a lot of what I do as kind of like painting or sculpting. That's just like my preference. So notice, like, as I do this, you can start to have some foliage and also like blend. And the style is coming from the medium, like the pen that I'm using, but it's also coming from the technique, which is like cross-hatching. So that's like that's where that part is coming in. Now, the imagination is coming in from the fact that I can see how that could be some foliage. So that's like the imagination part. And it's not, I'm not looking at anything, but I am looking at the drawing that I already have, and I'm turning it into that. So that's one way to draw something from imagination, although it was originally inspired by some pictures. And that's like a technique kind of thing. Like, I'm not really drawing the leaves, or maybe I am, but I'm using the pen to sort of be the thing that draws it. So that's one way of doing that. So let's say that there could be some stuff here. So that's like imagination, for example. Like, I'm just kind of using my imagination to see something. Then there's like as part of like the technique, there's like the edges. So for example, if I go like this, start to darken this part, because of like the lighting and stuff. So it is actually starting to run out. So let's say I do that. Then this is like an edge. But notice that I'm just imagining that these could be trees. It could be, or it could be buildings or something. I don't know. But that's like building up gradually kind of thing. Like, not all of it needs that much detail. Another example, and just to use like a different pen, is I could see how there could be like the moon right here, just because of the look of it and like the lighting and everything. So to do that, I'm just going to draw a circle with one of these. I'm not going to draw it in ink, or like I could, so I'm going to like sketch around that. And again, just do it kind of gradually. So something like that. And that's more of a compositional thing. Like, you can see that because of the edges and like the contrast, but then at the same time I also use like a thinner pen. You can compare like this is the foreground and this is the middle ground, and then that's like the background. But yeah, like that's one way to get some foliage from imagination. You can just kind of do this. Well, before I get to like using some reference and then using like imagination, I'll just kind of show this part. There's different ways of approaching it. I was pretty loose about it to begin with because I was just starting, but like now once you kind of have something, you might decide, again, you could use a pencil. I use a pen partly, like I'll get these like accidental kind of things where I have to fix it, but like that's part of the fun. But yeah, you could use a pencil. But I'm going to use like this thin pen because I can cover it with like the thicker line. So let's say that, just for the sake of like kind of the composition, because again, where it is right now, it's different than like where it started, because where it started, there was a lot more sort of just spontaneity and everything. But now maybe the idea is that there's more of a composition. So I kind of want to see like some kind of leaves, for example. So again, just from imagination to begin with. So I'm gonna just draw something like real quick, and I'm using a thin pen so I can be pretty like loose and like spontaneous with it. So I'm gonna just put some stuff down right here because I just want to see something right here. So maybe there could be, and I'm not making it too mechanical, I'm just sort of giving it some variety. So this could be covered up by something, but I kind of want some like more detailed like leaves or something. So that's one way to approach drawing from imagination, is you can just put that much down and then look up some reference, and I'll look up some reference in a minute. The other thing is kind of like what I was doing at the start of the video, where if you look at something like this and you think, okay, well, what do I see? Like, there's different ways of approaching it. You can keep it like, if you're still just kind of playing around, you can use this thinner pen because it'll always not be as focused or like contrast as like the thicker line. So that's one way to approach it. So for example, part of this you could have done thumbnails, but I'm just going to go off of what I have here. So for example, so this is like dark, and I'm saying like this is some kind of foliage, and then this is light. And if you cover this, then it'll just have to be like if you lay down some tone. But I like the contrast, so I'm going to keep it like that. I might go in and add more detail, but for now I'm going to leave it. And so then the next question could be, well, what value do you think this is? So let's just do like a middle. So if this is the white of the paper, and this is like the blackest part of the ink, then I'm just going to put down some tone. And this has nothing to really do with leaves, and it has more to do with like the value. So for example, like that, I'm just establishing, and there's nothing that says that it has to be like the middle tone kind of thing. And you could have a gradation. You could have So again, not really caring so much about the fact that they're leaves, but as I do this, so this is where like it's a little bit more like painting. As I'm just kind of blocking in the tone, I'll start to maybe see some leaves. Like again, you could always look up something, but this is part of showing like how that works. So part of it is the shape. So you might go from like the bigger shape. So I'm starting to see some shapes. So I might go to like a little bit smaller shapes. So notice that in these leaves, it was just coming from the pen. But here I'm drawing the actual leaves. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And it's kind of up to you, like how much detail. So just like same with the figure, like it's up to you, like how detailed you want to make stuff. So I know like I want to add a little bit more detail, but I don't need to make the hand more detailed than like the face, just from like an illustration standpoint. I'll go back to using this pen, sticking with the idea of drawing from imagination. So this was just sketched in pretty quickly, like blocked in. But let's say that I want to have, as I'm just looking at this, I sort of want to have like a leaf right here, let's just say. So I'm going to just draw a leaf, and I'm going to figure out kind of, let's say that this is a leaf. So let's just go like this. That's like the middle part there. So this is another way of drawing from imagination. Is what I'm wanting to show here. So this is like a certain kind of leaf that comes from like just kind of studying. And it could be incorrect, but that's why you're drawing from imagination. It's just like, it's not, doesn't have to be like perfect, like any of this. And it's kind of up to you. The other thing is, before I move on to like using reference, it's if you can see it, like if you can visualize it. So I'm going to just kind of imagine something. So I'm going to imagine that I see something here. So this is just coming from visualizing, which it uses a certain part of your brain, like your imagination, I guess. So I'm going to just like, so part of this is coming from picturing like what I'm drawing. Part of it is coming from how I started the video. Like I'm just going off of like the composition itself. Part of it is just coming from like hand-eye coordination kind of thing. It's kind of just up to you. Some of this like stuff I'll do like when I'm doodling. I'll just kind of, but based on like studies and stuff that I've already done, I'll just kind of like doodle something. So let's just say that I kind of did this. Now I'm just going to look up some leaves. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to just doodle something in, and then it's like you're working with your imagination and like reference and studies and stuff. So I looked up some like leaves. I'm going to make it look a little bit more like some kind of picture. So let's just kind of just add some shapes. Kind of like this. So I'm going to go off of sort of what I see, but also what I've already drawn. And then compare it to the illustration. So what I mean by that is I don't really want this to like compete. There's some parts that I want to be a little bit more vague. So I'll start to incorporate like these tones and define the leaves, but like not outline them. But you have to take your time at this part. Like, I'm just gonna kind of get started with it, but like, this is why it takes like an hour because this is the look of it. Like, this is the detail. Like, this is what you're wanting. This is like the icing on the cake. This is what you're wanting people to see. I think the question might be, well, why can't you just like look at something? I mean, you can, it's up to you. Like, this is to me, it's like a quicker way of doing it because then I'm not searching endlessly for reference. And then also there's like more freshness to it. And then also reference isn't going to go exactly with your picture anyway. So like, that's like the other thing. Like, you're going to have to change it up anyway. Because it's not about how perfect something is, because especially with the kind of work that I do, it's more about, yeah, like the imagination and the picture, like if it's interesting or not. Just like when you're reading a book, I mean, there's so many ways you could write it. It's just whatever is interesting to read. You can kind of make up what you know about leaves. I mean, you have to know something about it, or you have to have some kind of visualization if you're going to draw from imagination. You can also go off of kind of like the design or like the composition itself. You can kind of just come up with something. But that'll be it for today, and I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine. And if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.